Okay. So
I don't have, I just have us three. I don't have her yet. What's that? Wonder why.
oh, Mason, oh, you don't? You don't
Uh-uh.
have Kelly? Oh,
Oh, well,
oh,
she's
there
changed
you
her
go,
name. Maybe
Lacey.
that's why. I don't
Oh,
have her. I don't have her video
no,
or audio.
Oh,
There we
go.
go. Okay, now I do.
didn't turn it on.
Okay.
there you go. Okay. Okay, so this is the May 21st, 2021 meeting of the Shelby Historic Preservation Commission. And we'll do roll call first. Lacey Bassett.
Present.
Pat Carlisle is out on medical, and I chatted with her a little bit yesterday. She seems to be doing pretty good for first day after surgery. So she will be out though for 6 months. She can't do anything, no driving, no nothing. So can't move her arm. So I'm here, Mary Durkin.
Here.
Okay, Mayor Shag is coming shortly. Joe Geis is on vacation, and Jessica Gribbin is here.
Present.
Great. So we have 3 commission members, so we've established a quorum. Jessica, do you know if any public comments were submitted?
There were no public comments.
Thank you. Any additions or changes to the order of the agenda? I would like to move up the designation. I don't know why I didn't do that the other day when I was creating this, but I want to move up designation up to the first item under committee reports, if that's okay. That makes more sense to have it up there for this meeting. Any others? Okay. Motion, oh, sorry. Let's look at the minutes from April 16th, 2021. Are there any additions or corrections? I do have a couple, and I should have marked them ahead of time. Under publicity report, window clings are ready to, it says dispute. It should be distribute rather than dispute. And oh, and then under outreach education report, Mrs. Durkin shared TO should be TWO. The number 2, TWO. And those were the only ones I saw. Did anyone else see any corrections? Okay, could I have a motion to approve the April 16th to 2021 digital and written minutes with the corrections as noted?
All motions approved.
I'll second.
Oh, there we go. Motion.
Mary, you and I just need to decide who goes first. We'll alternate or something.
Yeah. All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. I should mention too that Mary Durkin is going to work on the minutes today because Pat is not here. And then Lacey volunteered to write the minutes for the next meeting, for the June meeting. So we have both of those covered. So,
Christina, good morning, everyone.
good morning.
Good morning.
I'm so sorry we have that ditch petition at 9:15. I've got to be on that video, Zoom meeting on that. But I did have something. I should have put it on the agenda, but if I can just put it in here, I got to get it on my phone now.
Sure.
What in the world? No. I may get it. Okay, now I got it. Okay, so the Wheelers, I don't know if Joe or Pam Wheeler maybe have talked to you about this. Or I'm just going to put up here like this. That wetting stone in Central Park, there's a wetting stone down there.
Mhm.
And they would like to put a plaque of recognition, and see if you can see this. Is that coming up straight? The word families is spelled wrong. They know that now. But that's 2.5 by 10 inches, 10.5, 2.5 by 10.5. And I don't know what all is. They said they're one of the founding families of Shelby. And I don't know if that's one of those things where you have to, it's their stone, apparently, from there that they donated. And, does the Historic Preservation Commission want a certificate of appropriateness for a plaque to be put on there, documentation as a process? She said they would get the spelling corrected, of course, if they know they're going to be allowed to put it on that base of that wedding stone. Wetting, not wedding, but wetting.
Yes, WHETT, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, I think it is
Wedding.
with an H. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because I thought that was Gamble's Mill stone, but there might be more than one stone down there.
There's
I
two
don't
stones
remember.
down there. I should say there are two stones down there. I just took pictures, and I don't know which one is theirs. Whether it's one closer to the cannon or a little bit closer to the light pole to the south. But I don't know. Again, they would like to get it up, of course, put it on. Do we need a little more documentation about that? I mean, I'm sure Joe would have something of how it got there and where it came from.
That would be my question because, and I don't know that we as a commission need to do anything. I think it's a great idea for them to put a plaque to, because there's so many things in town that if you don't know what it is, then you don't know the history to it. But yeah, I'd like to know a little bit more about the history and who, because I'm not familiar with the Wheeler family as a early settler. So that's kind of interesting too. I'd like to know more about that,
Right.
just for
Right.
our own history. So
Right, I'm with you. So would
Yeah.
it be safe to tell her that just maybe I'll just put them in contact with you, if you
Sure.
don't mind, Christina.
Sure.
And as far as we would see that identification of a true artifact like that would be good. And I don't think and it's not big enough truce. Even they're not putting up a 2 foot by 4 foot sign, they're putting up a 2.5 inch by 10 inch, a little something in there to identify. So I'll just put them in contact with you and say, it looks like this be something that would be favorably considered, but let's get the facts, because we are dealing with history here.
And would we consider it a local landmark? I mean, it was moved there, obviously, from wherever it was.
Right.
I don't even know. What is it?
I see if I did take a picture. This is really high tech stuff. I think it's this one.
Oh. Okay.
Okay.
There's another one there. And this, and I think they're both wedding stones. I'm not, Christine, you even know better than I would, but I think they're both wetting stones.
What's a wetting stone? Do you know? I mean, I don't know.
I think I know. I think it's you wet it down, you use it for grinding, but Lacey, you might know
yeah.
better than I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's for sharpening, but I mean, I've definitely come across the term, but I'm not sure of the exact application in this case. So it would be good to get the history to, and see what it was used for specifically.
That's
Right.
But yeah, you were saying
I think they're
WHETTING.
like sharpening stones. Yes, they're like,
Yeah.
sounds like here.
Sharpening or grinding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes I think they were sometimes used for grinding wheat or corn or things like that.
Well, I was going to ask you, because you mentioned the mill. It's different than a millstone, though,
Oh, okay.
right? Well, I don't know.
That one looked
Those
like
are
more like
bigger.
bowl or something. And that kind of brings up a point. Maybe we should walk through that park and do an inventory of what's there and what, because I have no idea what those cannons, why they're there and who donated them. And so that might be, because I think eventually, we have the bandstand as a locally designated, and we probably should work towards getting all of that park into the National Register, as well as the east side of Main Street too. So, yeah, we should probably, that's a nice spring type thing to do. We'll go down and inventory it.
Well,
Okay.
so do we know where the other wetting stone came from?
I don't.
I thought one of them was from Gamble's Mill, but there's one up by Central School too that I remember seeing, and I have no idea what that's from either.
Well, I gotta get off here, but I'm sorry.
Okay.
But I will put them in contact with you, Christine. If you don't mind, if I give them your cell phone,
Sure, that's fine.
Joe and Pamela, Paula rather, if you get that. So, okay.
Okay,
Very good. Thank you, everyone. I'm sorry to rush off, but this one starts here in about 2 minutes.
no problem.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, there's nothing to report on the engine house or fire station. There's been no movement.
I was going to ask you, so that's good. Okay, thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Thanks. Okay. All right, well, we have another little mystery and some information to look for, so cool.
Just, if you're going to put a plaque on one of them, it'd be nice to know what the other one is, and it could be plaqued also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the things that our genealogy group is going to be doing out at the cemetery, we're going to try and get a grant for it, is to put little plaques up that have a QR code on it that you can use your cell phone. The QR code would link to an article on a website. And so if you wanted to know more about it, you can click on that. And then there's also another program that we talked about a couple of years ago, probably, called CLIO, CLIO, where if you're walking through town, you can pull it up, and we would provide the information for it, but you can pull it up and you can read more about that. So that might be something that we do eventually for the buildings in town, and maybe some of these other artifacts, that are in there. Because I know that there's a couple of different things in the park there that I don't know what they are or how they got there.
I wonder if the museum people know a little bit more about what's in the park.
They probably would. We could probably talk to Tom Claybaugh too and see. And maybe when we start digitizing these city council minutes, we'll find some gems in there too, some things that might have been there. I guess at some point there was also a sign that listed veterans, like Civil War, and I think maybe even up to World War I, but no one seems to know where that went either. So definitely not there anymore. So at one point, I think Joe might have sent me that article. They were talking about enclosing the bandstand and making it a veterans monument type thing, and putting names of the Shelby veterans in there. So we're about to find out this Sunday how many we have out in our cemetery, because they always put the flags up right before Memorial Day and leave them up till Flag Day. And if you've never been out there during that time frame, it's quite amazing to see all of the flags that are honoring the veterans out there. We had a lot of military in the different wars. So
if you look at the wall at the high school.
Yeah, that too. Well, and that doesn't even, some of my classmates still aren't on there, so we're trying to get those put on there too. Righty. Let's see. So we decided to move up designation. Marvin Memorial Library, I sent you the letter that they sent to me, and they are declining to participate or to nominate the library as a locally designated historic landmark at this point. When I talked to, so we're on number 5 now, the discussion of locally designated historic landmarks, local overlay, and postponing the public hearing. I think because, you know, we've gotten more recent information that that these certificates of appropriateness only apply to locally designated properties. I kind of made the decision on my own, but we probably need to talk about it and make sure it's something that we still want to do. I did not send out letters to any of the other businesses and homes that were on the Ohio Historic Inventory. I just kind of feel like we need to take a step back and think about what we're doing and be more purposeful in how we're approaching all of this. Maybe we should still send a letter out to them, letting them know that they're on the Ohio Historic Inventory, but maybe not so much doing a public hearing with them at this point. I'm not really quite sure actually how to move forward with this. But I will say one other thing that when I talked to Nathan Bevel at the State Historic Preservation Office, he asked about an overlay. Did we have an overlay of historic properties that was, you know, at a lower level than the Shelby Center Historic District? So we can do an overlay that would be, you know, that would include more properties and, you know, and put those under a locally designated historic district. And so that's an option that we could do too. And I think that would probably be a pretty good option, because then we can annex in the Ohio Inventory properties that are on East Main Street. We could, there's one property still left standing on Mohegan that's not designated as anything. And that's that Parrothead Pub, and that's got, you know, quite a lot of history in it. And so that could be annexed in. We could go up and down Gamble a fair amount. The church on South Gamble, the Methodist Church, is on the Ohio Inventory. On the north end, we have the Presbyterian Church, and we have the post office and the library. And then all the way up, we have the Marvin House. And then if we even want to go a little bit farther in creating a local overlay, we could actually go across the railroad tracks and go to the two Ott houses on the corner of Gamble and Smiley. They're both just post Civil War, but not much past Civil War. And even Ted Nally's Cafe would probably be old enough to qualify. So, and the reason that I bring all that up is for a couple of reasons. Because as we're going through these design guidelines, we could and should include them in all of the conversations. You know, which comes first, you know, the horse or the cart? Do we start to think about what the overlay would look like and then, you know, make sure that they're in, or should we work on the design guidelines just within the historic district, but with an eye towards bringing those groups in? So, Mary, did you have a question?
I was waving to Tim.
Oh, is he going golfing?
Sorry.
That's okay.
Mary, I feverishly taking notes. There is a recording of this that you can get later, so that
Yeah.
you know, and you know all the details. So don't stress too much.
I thought, oh, I'm probably going too fast, so,
Yeah.
okay. So, that's, you know, one reason that I wanted to bring up this overlay. The other one is, in creating this under the, in our, geez, what's it called? Our, not our charter, but our guidelines. There is a place called procedures for designation of historic districts, and it's the same procedure that we just used for some of our local landmarks with a public hearing. The difference in including a whole historic district is, and it says at the close of the hearing, and if there is no objection by 51% of the property owners, then we can forward all the information to the city council, and we can get, you know, that whole district approved. So what that means is that even if someone or a group says that they don't want to be included, if we included them as a part of a historic district and the property owners within that district are okay with it, there would have to be 51% of the people in that historic overlay that we're talking about that would have to say we don't want it. So it's not, we don't have to not include people who say that they don't want to be included. They would, the only way that would happen is if 51% of the property owners say we don't want this district, we don't want to be involved. And I think that's pretty unlikely that that would happen. I think most people are on board with historic preservation. I hope. So that's the other way that, you know, that frankly, that we could get the library included as a locally designated historic landmark. If you know any of the history of the library, it was not the library board members that asked to be put, that created the nomination for the National Register of Historic Places. It was community members. The library board members had already voted to raise that historic house. They were going to tear it down so that they could build another addition on. And it was people within the city, namely the Shelby Historical Society, which doesn't exist anymore, was actually the one that submitted the nomination for the National Register, and it was approved. So there's kind of a history with that library. And I think, my personal opinion, I think that, you know, that we need to continue to help preserve that building. So any comments on any of that?
Are we wanting to discuss then what our priorities would be between the two, our guidelines versus expanding the borders? Is that what we're considering right now?
Yeah, I mean, which comes first? I don't think that, I'm not sure that we're ready to actually move forward on, you know, on creating that historic district, but I think we should have, or maybe we are, but I think we should have an idea of what we would include and make sure that they're in on the conversation as we work on these design guidelines. And maybe we even let them know, you know, this is what, maybe we do kind of think about what the overlay would look like. And then as we finish the design guidelines, actually, you know, put that, you know, to a public hearing and, you know, with the overlay. I don't know, I'm up for, I just kind of feel like if we are intending later on to create that overlay and create a larger local historic district, that, you know, that they should be in on the conversation, and that we should be thinking about that as we write the design guidelines. Because right now what we would be doing is we would just be writing them up on the 28 properties that are in, you know, on the National Register at this point that we have, plus the locally designated ones that we already have.
Don't you, when we're writing the guidelines though, we're not writing for specific buildings. We shouldn't, I don't even think we should be thinking about specifics. They should be generalizations so they apply to everything. Sort of like teaching to the test and not teaching to the test.
Mhm.
See what I'm saying?
Right, I do.
So-
And I didn't mean to imply that we would, you know, look at, but I think too that there might be things or considerations on those properties that maybe, you know, we would want to consider as we write the local design guidelines.
Yeah, I agree that it kind of needs to be based on the types of buildings that we would be considering in the future, because I mean, there's no sense in, you know, adding in a design guideline for the style of building that doesn't exist, and then vice versa. You know, you don't want to leave something out that's a key, you know, component of, you know, one or more of the buildings in this district. So I think to some degree it would make sense, because especially because residences are going to be different than commercial buildings. You want to make sure you're covering all of the aspects.
Yeah, and if we just did the National Register buildings now, that would, other than residences upstairs, it wouldn't be, that wouldn't be similar. The other thing would be, you know, when we start expanding it, and especially with the homes, you know, we would have wooden, you know, wooden buildings as well, because most of what's downtown is brick. And so, you know, that's something that we would consider at that point too, is, you know, just wooden structures in general. If we were going to look at generalities, we would look at, you know, wooden structures versus brick. It would just be another one of the, you know, parts of the guidelines. You know, how do you maintain brick? How do you maintain wood? Okay. So I guess my question still is, should we, I guess what I'm hearing is that kind of we should think about this local overlay as we're beginning to work on the design guidelines. Is that?
Yeah, I agree. I think you made a good point about that. Well,
Okay. So let's, for the next meeting, then let's come together, and I'll see if maybe Joe can help me with it, and we'll see if we can come up with a map. The areas that I just talked about, do you think that we'll probably need to extend a little bit farther on Main Street to the west too, because there's some, what I'll do is I'll get with Joe and we'll look at the Ohio inventory properties and then see if there's some way to kind of create a map of what the overlay would look like. So basically what I'm proposing is that we take the properties that are already on the Ohio historic inventory, you know, on Main Street, on Gamble, on Mohican, because some of the, you know, buildings originally were on Mohican too, but that building wasn't. Parrot Heads wasn't. Any other? There's one building still standing on whatever we're calling it now, Black Fork, Central Avenue. That was the house I was, first house I lived in after I was born. I don't like to say house I was born in, because then everybody says, well, what, were you not born in a hospital? But but that's, you know, so I don't know if that one should be included. I don't know. We'll look at that and see. Trying to think of any other, but anyway, I'll look at the ones on the historic inventory and see if I can't work with Joe and come up with a overlay map of what it would look like. And then we can go from there. Okay. Any other conversation about that? Okay. So let's see. So I'll just go ahead and finish number 6 under Shelby Pure Milk Barn. Research continues. I've gotten it back to 1926, which is definitely old enough. That's when Shelby Pure Milk bought the building, and I have a little bit of information. Actually, I probably have it back to maybe 1921. A group called Rice Construction owned the building at that point, the barn, to put their, they did road construction, and they didn't last very long, but I know it's got to be older than that, because they wouldn't have built a building just to put their in town like that. So I think it's older than that. So that continues, and I've notified Melinda Bigelow, who owns the property, that we probably won't be having a public hearing in June, mostly because we're still doing research on that building. So, in addition to the, the others that we were talking about doing. So, so anyway, that's where that goes. So I'm hoping that maybe we can do a public hearing like July or something, when Pat, I did want Pat to be back for these public hearings too. So we'll postpone it for maybe a month or two. Anything else on that one? Okay. So we're back to number 1 under inventory. Survey of residences above the historic district storefronts. And I think, Mary, you've done some work on that. I did a little bit of work too when we were delivering the signs.
Yeah,
So,
just kind of conversation. There's 17 units up above Legends.
mhm.
There's 1 unit up above the Hancock Agency.
Okay, good. I haven't found any, because the one that's above the Sweet Dreams actually belongs to Legends. So
Yeah, that's probably part of theirs.
yeah. And then the other 2 businesses I went to were they were really busy, so I didn't have a chance. All I could really do is give them the cling or the sign and say, here it is. So I'll have to go back and ask them about if they've got any rooms upstairs. So
I just found out there are some above Schradley Accounting. Well, it's the old Schradley Accounting. It's now
Yoakum.
attorney. Yes, Yoakum. I don't know. I can't remember how many she told me were up there. But I didn't know there were apartments up there. So that was news to me.
I did. I've been in there like a long time ago. And they weren't very nice a long time ago, but hopefully they've worked on it. I should ask my son, because he was a census taker, and he had to go find all these apartments and buildings and stuff. So maybe I'll get a better idea from him. I do know the other ones that I went to on the south side don't have anyone living in them right now, though. The one that just sold again, I think, with the two sisters on top. That one, someone told me, was a racquetball court for a while. It's all open up there. And then Mr. Weaver told me that it's all open upstairs for that one too, because the baseball team has batting practice in there. I'm kind of like, oh, horrors. I hope they don't hit the brick walls. Oh my. Yeah. So,
It's
okay.
a rifle range or something in one of them at one point in time.
Oh,
I'm not
well,
sure where.
there was a bowling alley.
Yeah, there was a bowling alley. Yeah.
In the bottom of the SNS building. And Mr. Weaver did know that much. And Brunswick Pool Hall, it was located, and I asked my dad about that yesterday. He said, oh yeah, Brunswick was in there for a little bit, but it was across the street before that. So there was a pool hall in there too. So. If the walls could talk. Yep. Okay, funding and grants, I don't have anything new on
So
that.
wait a minute, are we gonna send a letter to them about the residents or just put that on hold?
Oh,
I mean,
were we, I think we were just asking them as we went, right? Or do we want to still do that survey? I'd kind of forgotten about the survey and I was just asking them when I went in there.
I mean, I didn't ask everybody.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
No, I mean, because I thought we were doing this letter.
Yeah, maybe we better do something a little bit more formal. I'll go ahead and,
Yeah, I mean, mine's
that
just word of mouth. Okay.
yeah, yeah. Okay, all right, I'll do that. The funding Richland History Alliance, I don't have much new to talk about on that, although we probably could, since a lot of the guidelines have been lifted on COVID, I think we probably could meet in person to do workshops now, so. So we can look at that. We still have, I think the grant is due maybe the end of June or July 1st or something. So we still have the next meeting to talk about that if we want to do that. And then Lacey, did you find anything out about the building doctor?
Yeah, the trick is with the workshop, they only do it within a 5-mile radius. So, Mansfield has it planned for Mansfield. We could piggyback, but it would have to be 2 days prior, the 2 days prior. So right now it's planned for Thursday, Friday, and they don't do it on the weekends. So, and I just don't know if there's like necessarily an advantage to doing that. Because I think they're going to be coming back and forth from Columbus, each day anyway. So I think, if we wanted to like maybe strum up some interest, there might be a benefit to having it, in the same time period, but I don't know that we necessarily need to have it like back to back, unless there's another idea that you had on it. We just have to check in with them and see what dates they have available as well at this point. And then go from there. I have details on like what they require, etc. But
is there a cost to that?
No, it's totally free. The organization that is sponsoring, so that would be us, has to provide a venue, and there's some requirements on that, especially due to COVID. But other than that, there's no cost. So,
if I remember though, they also go call on some of the businesses and help them with questions or look at the properties that.
Yeah, so it's a 2-day thing. The first day they have I think it's evening. I don't know if that's flexible presentation, a short presentation, and they go over the standards. And then I don't know how much they talk about individual issues at that point. I think they just focus on general overview of the standards. And then the following day, they do site visits for up to 10 people. So 10 different sites within that 5-mile radius. And they do consults on, it sounds like specific issues, challenges to restoration, preservation that people might be having. And so everyone who signs up, you do have to sign up in advance, and everyone who signs up, all the building owners would go to the presentation. They have to go to the presentation, and then the SHPO would come to their site. And it's like it's not really like a tour of buildings or anything like that. It's just the SHPO and the building owner at that point. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So if you had 10 building owners, the 10 building owners don't go to another building to listen to in.
Yeah. Not to my knowledge. I mean, I don't know if maybe that's, flexible. Obviously you'd have to get permission from all of the building owners to do that. So I don't know if they ever do that. It sounded like, because there was some discussion about that with Richland Preservation Action Group, because we were originally thinking it was kind of like a tour of buildings, and it sounds like they don't usually do it that way. So I could get clarification if we thought that we wanted to do that, if that would be of interest to people. But
Jessica, what do you hear from people that, do you think there would be interest in it?
I think that sounds like a fantastic idea. It brings resources and information to them that are specific, and if they can, if they have I know like Justin, for example, is struggling with like the vision of what to do on his facade. And if somebody could kind of walk him through some ideas, I think that would be super helpful. I will say there is discussion, and it's just discussion at this point about how do we help building owners have some vision about what their building could be or could look like. And there's talk of somehow bringing in a design professional that might do like super quick, just kind of sketch type stuff that would have, historic preservation, like come from that background. So I've reached out to Thomas Palmer just to kind of get some resources in that vein, but there is some talk about that. And maybe it would be a grant through a local foundation or something like that. So, but I think what you guys are talking about, I think that's fantastic. I think they would be very open, building owners would be very open to that.
Okay. Something that you just said spurred something with me, and now it just went in and out of my mind. I'll think of it in a minute. Well, I'm kind of thinking then that we should do this now rather than later. Should we try to piggyback on them? Or I didn't understand, Lacey, what you meant by whether it was to our advantage to piggyback on what they're doing.
because the two events they'd be separate events. They wouldn't be related in any way. So we couldn't advertise it as a mutual venture. I suppose on some level you could say we're having one in Mansfield and one in Shelby, but it would just be, and then we would be stuck if we wanted to do them back to back. We would be stuck with Tuesday, Wednesday, if they have that. I think that the only other option they had for that week was a Monday, Tuesday, if I remember right. So yeah, I was just saying, I don't know if we need to do it that same week, or if we just want to do it, whatever, if there's another week that works better for various reasons.
Do you think we can get them ourselves?
When Richland Preservation Action Group checked into it a little while back, they still had a number of dates available. I think we'd have to just check in with them and see. But otherwise, I don't think there's an issue. I think it's open to more or less any community. So.
Yeah, that's too bad. They won't do like well, you know what, I think that's okay anyway. I was thinking, well, maybe they would bill it as Richland County, but that doesn't really, we would need to travel to Mansfield, and which is not an issue, but yeah, we should make it our own, I think.
I think it should be our own.
Yeah, well, and yeah, even if you did a joint presentation, the buildings that they go see would need to be in the same 5 mile radius. So that would have to be separate, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I don't know that there's really any reason for people in Shelby to come to Mansfield for the joint.
Right.
Although I did mention it to Julie, and she said she was gonna, she might check in to see if there was any way to piggyback, if they had any ideas behind that. So, it's possible they have some ideas on it. But.
Could you check on additional dates too, and see how quickly? I really think, there's people that are starting to do renovations and in the middle of restorations and that kind of thing. And Jessica, I remember what I was going to say. That's one thing that when we're working on the design guidelines that we need to consider is like, are we going to look at a certain time period and bring structures back to that era? So, sometimes they do that in the design guidelines. So that's something that, you know, we need to probably, it's probably one of the first things that we need to talk about, you know, where are we going with this? What, you know, what time period are we looking at? Are we taking it all the way back to, you know, the late 1800s when most of those buildings were built downtown? And, you know, it could be different for different areas too. So,
Well, and even different buildings, when you, I mean, when you think about when their, you know, historic value is is highest, I guess. I don't know if that's the right way to phrase it, but it may not all be the same, you know. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a challenge.
Justin's
Yeah.
building. Go ahead, Lacey.
Well, I was just going to say, we don't necessarily want to advise someone to take out a, you know, a really terrific 1920s architectural feature in favor of going all back to the 1890s. You know, I think you preserve what's great, and you allow for some flexibility. So modern stuff, yeah, you can, you know, go back to the original time period, but I think it depends on the building.
Yeah, and to that point too, like Justin's building is at least on the National Register, it says it's from 1920, so it's a little bit younger than some of the other buildings downtown. And so it's going to have a little bit different architecture. It was, you know, we found out that that the transom above there, that's the leaded glass, is called prismatic glass, and it served a purpose. It was to deflect light into the building, to give more light into the building. It's magnificent. Frank Lloyd Wright actually made some designs of tiles like that in the late 1800s. They only produced one of them that he did, but his designs were incredible. But, you know, even into the 1920s, they were still using those tiles. And we looked at those tiles the other day, they're still intact. They're not bowing, they're not, you know, like leaded glass sometimes bows, and they aren't bowing at all. They're just beautiful. And those are the things that, you know, that we want to help protect. So, okay. So from what I'm hearing, we're definitely want to host one of these building doctor presentations, and Lacey's going to find out what days we could do it, and then we'll go from there. And I think we'll probably start talking it up among property owners to see. I know there's going to be interest in it. I mean, I think 5 or 6 buildings right off the bat, you know, we could. Now, do these buildings have to be designated historic structures, or?
They know of.
Okay.
I mean, they're not going to want to, you know, consult on a 1980s building, but anything
yeah.
historic. So
Mhm.
as far as I know, I can confirm, and I do have a information sheet I might be able to share on, like, you know, what we would need to do in advance, but.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay. These we went through. So now we're down to publicity, window signs. Like we said, we're in the process of distributing. Lacey, I didn't get yours to you yet. If you have time to come over, that's fine. If not, I can go down that side of the street and hit those pretty easily too. So just let me know on that.
Okay.
Okay. The blog, I thought they were setting it up for me, and what she did was send me a bill of what it would cost to do it. So, and I told, it was $297.50, and I didn't know whether I needed to bring it to the commission to vote on whether to do it or not. I mean, we'd already said we were going to do it. I thought it was part of the contract that maybe that the city already had with Pivot, but evidently this is like an addition. So I went ahead and asked Brian Crum to go ahead and do a purchase order on it, because he told me that he could do that. So And that would come out of our account. So I guess just to cover our bases, can I have a motion to encumber $297.50 to create the blog on the city website?
I'll motion.
Okay,
A second.
thank you. So we have a motion and a second to pay to have a blog set up on the city website. All in favor? Signify aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Okay. Motion passes. Thank you. So I think that's already in the works. So hopefully we'll have that done. Jessica, if you were going to do something like that too, you might want to talk to them and see what they'll, if that's the cost for you too. I don't know. Probably to put it on that page. So now we're down to outreach and education, local design guides, discussion, what should be preserved. And then I'm going to lump in number 10, local design guidelines books and some of the portions to work on. I kind of had the thought that I didn't want to just kind of stall the project while Pat was gone, but I wanted her to be a part of it too. And I thought, you know, there's probably some things with the book that we could work on now while we're waiting to have a fuller discussion on some of our, you know, what we want to include as guidelines for the book. So that's why I sent you the information. Things like the buildings and the districts that are subject to the guidelines, we could probably go ahead and pull that together. In fact, we would be doing that with the map overlay that we're going to create. The whole portion on certificates of appropriateness, we could probably go ahead and get that written up so it would be done. And maybe even the bibliography of reference materials, you know, the books, videos, websites, that kind of thing. We could start pulling some of that information together. So are there any portions that you would like to work on? The certificate of appropriateness, a lot of it's already kind of written up in various places in our ordinance and some of our rules and procedures. So I don't think it would be, it's probably a lot of cutting and pasting more than anything. It looks like there's a lot to it, but it's not too much. Are there any portions that you're interested in working on?
I'm
Sorry,
not
did
sure
we
I'm
have-
qualified enough.
No.
Are you referencing a list? Did we get a document that outlines the portions in
Yeah,
question?
Is this what it is?
Yes, it's the one that you and I worked on like months ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can pull that up.
Yeah, I attached it along with the agenda for today, so you would have it. So. Well, and Mary, to your point, this would probably help you to have a better understanding. Like if you
Oh,
were to
yeah.
take the certificate of appropriateness part of it, you know, that would help kind of get you up to speed on that. Because I don't think we've done one. Oh yeah, we've done one with Randy, I guess. I'm thinking mostly well, I'll go ahead and take the buildings and districts just because I'll be working on that with Joe.
I mean, I'm looking like a dictionary of terms. I mean, you know, as you're putting things together, if you know, tell me what terms you want defined, I could probably do that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's going to be dependent on the rest of the content.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm just saying that, as words get to be together, I've done that with my township work.
Okay.
Oh.
So do you want to take that one on?
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's a later thing. I'm just,
Okay.
I don't think
Yeah.
that's something right now. So you think that I could do, why is there a commission and what the commission does? And do we have language of that already?
Yeah, in the ordinance. In the ordinance, and it could be paraphrased.
There's probably quite a bit in the plan as well.
Yeah,
That
that too.
And I would think the bibliography of preservation reference materials, like if I was you, I would, like you did with the addresses, do like a Google Doc, and you guys can all start to just put stuff in there to sort through, and then categorize it so it's easy for building owner to say, hey, I need to learn how to do XYZ. Well, here's a YouTube video that, helps you with that. Or here's a list of all the contractors who do, all those things. I would think that you could put that together, like everyone could, as you come across things.
Okay. We should, if we made that open to the public, then they could go on our blog and find it, right? If we put it there, or if we put it.
I'm thinking about like what Thomas had for Preservation Ohio, where you had like a password. So I guess, and I'm not sure why he controls who actually gets in there, but for all his grant resources and things like that. But it might give, if there's some sort of, not a paywall, but they have to come to you, it may be helpful so you know what's going on.
Okay. I know you can do that within WordPress, which is what this city site is built on. I would imagine I have access to do that. I'll ask them about that.
Yeah, to link to a document, that's something we can do in-house, so it's not like an additional cost or that.
Okay. Okay.
So back to this. So you say these are in the ordinances. How do I access those? I mean,
it's on the, or you should have gotten a copy with what I gave you from when we got started, but also it's on the city website. If you look under departments and then departments and then Historic Preservation Commission, it's all the way down on the drop down.
okay.
And the ordinance is there. The actual certificate of appropriateness form is another link on there. And if you want to just do the part on like how to submit a certificate of appropriateness, and then the first two, why there's a commission and what the commission does, I mean, I can pull that part.
Okay, well, I can look at this stuff and see if I can, yeah.
Okay.
If
Yeah,
not, I've pulled that up before. I can do part of it too.
Okay. Well, let's put all that like on a Google Doc too, and then you can both work on it and add stuff and collaborate on it. Would that be okay? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see. So I think that gets us started on it anyway. And then the other thing that I thought about was so that we can keep the ball rolling on it, with the other document that I gave you was something that Joe Thompson created for us too, the considerations for local standards. And some of the things that, that we had pulled off of that at one point. I think the things that either we're dealing with right now, where we know that property owners are going to be asking questions, or they're things that, that we're interested in making sure that, that they're preserved. I think signs, I think was, one thing that we probably want to create some local guidelines for murals, and along with that, painting brick, whether to paint or not paint, and then windows we might want to look at. But now as I'm talking about this, I'm wondering if we should have just an open meeting, or maybe if we don't feel comfortable having a meeting, maybe we send out a survey to the property owners and ask them what they consider most important. I think maybe we should have a general conversation. I don't know.
It kind of depends. I'm sure some people would have ideas. Some people probably aren't used to thinking in terms of architectural features, but they still might be able to articulate, things they like about, the historic buildings. So if we came with some of the characteristics that we thought we had identified as potentially significant, and then presented that might be helpful in allowing them to be able to articulate which ones they liked. I'm just thinking of people are going to be like, well, yeah, there's some beautiful historic buildings, but not be able to describe exactly what it is that they think is important to keep. So we might want to assist with.
Okay.
And if you do workshop sooner than later, you might get some things just out of that by, seeing what's presented there and what people have questions about. And I mean, that might be your start at least.
I think that's a good idea. I really do think that we need public input on all of this as we get started, now that I'm thinking about it. Is there anything now, though, that we feel like is urgent that we set some guidelines for? The only thing I can really think of, murals and
any work that we know that might be happening soon.
The library's got theirs all penciled in.
Well, that one's already approved, that mural. I know there's been talk about, painting possibly a mural on the side of the vault, but he mentioned that last summer when we had lunch with them, but I haven't heard any word since then. And the only other thing I can think of was the signage that the library wanted to put out, the moving sign, the digital signage, and we can't. They don't need a certificate of appropriateness now for that, so they can do what they want. I have seen the city of Galion had criteria for murals. So why don't I pull that for next month, and we can look at that and see what we want to do, if we want to create any guidelines from that.
Yeah, that, and maybe another one that's a little bit more urgent would be removal of windows, because you can cover things up and it can be fixed, but once you take old windows out and rebuild the window frame, then it's kind of done. So there's probably other things like that, but that comes to mind as a common one people do.
Okay, so I'll look at the murals for Galion. The Medina has a really good set of design guidelines, but I don't remember if they have murals. I'm sure they have something about windows in there. So if you all would kind of do some looking around to see what design guidelines are online and pull out those sections on both murals and windows, and then we can discuss those in June. All right. Good. Okay. Any other discussion on the design guidelines? Okay. Unfinished business, he already talked about the engine house, the mayor did. I still have the digitization process engine house history digitization on hold. We may be able to get in there now. I can ask Chief Thompson. And I personally have so many projects right now that I'm not sure that I want to start tackling that one right now, but and I'd love to have Joe help us with it, but I'm not sure that he is still comfortable with going out. So I'll have to ask him. New business to search for the new commission member. I think we're zeroing in on one person. He owns historic property downtown, and it's really going to probably come down to whether he wants to be able to apply for grants, especially through the State Historic Preservation Office. So going to meet with, he's on vacation or he's out of town right now. And I'm going to meet with him when he gets back and kind of explain. I did go and talk to Gordon Eister about the whole situation. And so I have a better understanding now, and I can talk to the gentleman and make sure that he understands what he will be able to do and what he won't be able to do. So hopefully we'll have somebody in place by the next meeting. I would have done, if he hadn't been out of town, maybe we would have had him here today. But any other business? Can't think of anything either. We do have a meeting coming up in June. I wasn't sure if we should still have it, but I do think that we have enough business, and we probably will have some certificates of appropriateness by then. I do know another building owner that's considering putting solar panels on the roof of his building. So that'll be something new for us to look at. I've already looked. There's actually a different document on sustainability that I'll forward to you. So hopefully they'll be moving forward with that. That could
on
be
that note, sorry, we just finished our facade improvement grant, I guess, application period. I'm trying to get the committee together so we can review them. We do have 6 applications, 7, something like that. So you'll get some of those that will come in front of you. There's a few awnings that have been requested. So we're going to look at those, hopefully, I don't know, maybe today, but early next week at the very latest. And then we'll get them in front of you guys if necessary, which I think most of them probably will be.
So we probably need to research awnings. That's a new one. I think signage we should begin to talk about, because, and I'm talking about signs downtown, when Alan Wigton and Julie Roll came to the Shaw building to look at it, because I wanted somebody that had dealt with historic preservation restoration projects before on a smaller basis than some of the you know, some of the other people that they've been talking to with the Shaw Building. And one of the things that he said, you don't have any signs, you know, that are perpendicular, that are, you know, that are like when you drive down the street, you know, you literally have to look to the side to see what buildings, you know, what storefronts there are. Where, you know, if you look at old pictures of Shelby, they all had perpendicular signs. Is that right? Perpendicular, like that, yeah.
To the building. Mhm.
Yeah. And I don't know why and when that was changed, but I definitely think that that's something that should be looked at. And I know that Joe would know intimately about that because I think he deals with it all the time. And so I'd like to, if not the next meeting, then a future meeting, have him kind of give us a discussion of the signage and why it is the way it is. And if it's something that, you know, that, and it may be something too that that we ask the property owners if that's something that they would like to do. Like to be able to have that choice, you know, to put a sign out.
I think there's interest in that. I will say too, depending on the size of the sign and maybe also depending on if it sticks out from the building. I don't know what the criteria is, but it does have to go through the building department. So it's Joe's a certain size and scope, and then if it's, and I don't know again what the criteria are, but then it goes to the building department, which is Richland County. So for ease of use, I would assume that people have done smaller and, you know, easier signs to avoid that process. So it may be like something where if you want a sign like that, and I think there's interest in that. I know at least the coffee shop has talked about like, you can't see our sign unless you're like, people don't even know it exists. So that'd be a good discussion to have.
Okay, good. Yeah, and it might even require asking city council to change an ordinance. Or I don't think the county has that restriction, right? It would be, you have to go through the county to get it, but yeah. Well, we'll, I'll look at the agenda for next month, and if it's something that we can fit in, I'll see if, you know, if Joe would be willing to at least give us a brief discussion about that. So, because that kind of goes along with the awnings. I mean, are they wanting to put a name on the awning or just put an awning on the building?
I think it's just awnings. One is like one that was there and came down. One maybe historically had it, but I don't know. Weber's, did they have awnings at one point?
Who is that?
Weber's.
Oh, Weber's. I don't know that any of them had them originally, but I do know that they had, like, I'm pretty sure the Shaw Building, I think one of those pictures we saw in the Shaw Building, it had awning.
At some period of time, you know,
Yeah.
it's like, so anyway, yeah, I'll send those to you. Like I said, once I've met with the committee and we decide which ones we think are worth moving forward on, I'll make sure they get to you guys.
Okay. Because I think that one was, I mean, it would have still been kind of historic. 1939, I think, was when that picture was that we have. So, okay, good. Well, I'm good. I'm glad that there's interest. So that's really cool. Yeah. Do you have any idea how many you'll be able to fund?
It depends. We did offer, if it was a historic building, that we might go up to like a $5,000 match instead of the $2,500. So if we decide to do that on any of them, and I don't know that we will, then we would do 3. If not, then we could do 4 potentially. So.
Mm-hmm. I know the Ohio History Fund that we went for when they approved our grant, but they reduced it by 15% so that they could give more money out. And so, you know, that could be something that you do too, is just give smaller amounts. But
Well, some of them I know are already disqualified for various reasons. So we
okay.
Is okay. I mean, we'll be able to fund all of them that qualify. We'll say that. So in some capacity, whether that's, the full 5 or 2,500.
Cool. Can't wait to see it. Yeah. All right, anything else? I do know we'll have some, I think I probably for the mausoleum, we'll have some certificates of appropriateness to approve, along with maybe a couple of them downtown. So we'll see what happens next month. All right. Anything else? All right. If not, then the meeting stands adjourned. Thank you. See, sorry, I shouldn't have done that so quickly. Do we want to try to meet in person in June, or do you still want to do Zoom meetings for a while? Lacey, it probably affects you more than anybody.
I could do either. It's up to everyone else, really.
I don't know, if we're gonna have all of these things written up, maybe it would be good if we were all together instead of showing things on the screen all the time.
Yeah, we don't have to have Zoom meetings either, I don't think, if we meet in person. I'll have to ask Joe if we want to continue doing that. I mean, we can do that and just show it, but I don't know that there's a need to do that. So the other nice thing about being able to meet in person is that we can have guests. So if someone wants to sit in on a meeting, and we have had that in the past. People have just come to listen in on what we're doing. So that might be a way of getting some of the local business owners to, to come in and just, be interested in what we're doing, even take part in the discussions if they want to. So we want to do
Where do we meet?
the back part of City Hall, that meeting room in the back. Well, we've met up front before, but I think they're mostly meeting in the back now, just so that we can still do a little bit of distancing and things. So
Does it have a name?
I think it does.
They just so I'll usually say the Water Street entrance of City Hall.
Okay, so it is then. We'll meet in person for the June meeting, and that'll be June 18th. Okay, so now we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks. Oops. Thanks, Jessica.
You are welcome.
Okay.